fearing the madness us against the world, and every heartbeat felt like this is what we deserve.
Hey, happy Sunday, everybody.
Hello, everybody. The show's not just me and a photo of Justin and an empty microphone.
No, it's Windy Justin. Welcome to Philadelphia, the Windy City.
Jesus.
Oh, shit. Hold on. These are my people.
Oh, we're not his people.
No, he found his own sea gerbs.
Now we know.
My people need me here at the Democratic National Convention. Do you mind if I use your key to
Smoke? You're gonna start smoking, Brian? Really? That's now? That's just.
What's that?
I thought you were about to ask if you could smoke. It sounded like that. You were like, "Do you mind if I smoke?"
Yeah, no. I'm gonna smoke this Topo Chico. It's Mexican water.
But it's also fizzy water.
Yeah, well, that's how you need it to freebase it properly. Otherwise, it doesn't. I don't know. Oh, dude, we just got done with a Modern Rogue shoot.
Yeah, Bryce is telling me that you guys have gotten down to where you can knock them out pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, it helps that on ones that are similar in theme, when we're dealing with the same expert, it's like everybody kind of gets what it wants to be, and everybody knows the beats that we need to have. It's pretty good.
And now, we ended up doing 6 episodes in the past 2 days.
2 days,
so-
man. Yeah, 6 episodes,
Jesus.
2 days. And I mean, it's like, I'm not going to say that, it was a breeze or anything, but it was less intense than I had feared.
Mm-hmm.
By a lot.
Yeah. And it definitely helped that only one of those 6 was outside.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed the experience of being able to shoot my TV show, but I did not enjoy the experience of shooting a show in LA in the middle of summer.
Yeah. All I could think about every time I ever see anything is how hot it must have been.
Yeah.
like being in that freaking warehouse space, just sweating, and I mean, I don't mind being uncomfortable and sweating if I have the luxury of looking uncomfortable and sweating, right?
Yeah.
But knowing that it's my job to look like I have my crap together, and meanwhile just everything being unpleasant, hot.
Yeah.
Hot.
All right, guys, we're ready to go.
Alrighty. Well, let's do this. Go in there. Alright. Well, still at work? Can you make sure that it was already live when you asked? Boom. Alright. Take it away, Andrew, in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Weird Things Podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Yo, that's a fact. In my cool as a cucumber, 72 degrees, climate controlled studio. That's where I am.
I had to turn off the AC because it was just getting so freezing in here. And
It's nice and
meanwhile,
chilly.
Justin Robert Young, somewhere in Philadelphia, I believe.
Yep, for in the shadows of Citizens Bank Field, walking our way to the Democratic National Convention Press Center.
Yeah, so if it makes you feel better, like, Justin's a war correspondent on the moon. Like, if like, that's about as foreign as the outside world is to us.
Yeah, at least on the moon, though, he'd be climate controlled.
That's true. Good point.
Well, gentlemen, it happened. Finally.
Wait,
They laughed at us. They made fun of us. They ridiculed us, all the other podcasts. We were the source of scorn. I mean, sure, we were an award-winning podcast. They belittled us. They made fun of us. They called us names in my head, and we carried on. We were persistent. we didn't stop. We knew there was a story there. We knew there was something there. And call us fools, idiots, what other impolite, incorrect terms you want to. It didn't stop us.
No, because we're great and we tried real hard when we did that. Justin, you remember how hard we persevered on that thing?
Oh man, I remember the blood, sweat, and tears. Never before had we ever done a thing like that.
Yeah. Well, that's what's great about us.
That thing I speak of, which you guys obviously already are way ahead of me on, is our coverage of Goblin news. You know, you can't count on the media does not give you the full story, people. Okay.
No.
Noam Chomsky is actually working on an entire book talking about why the media won't talk about goblins.
Yeah, man. I say, when it comes to goblins, I say, wake up, Gleeple. They're abusing you.
This media blackout about Goblin news is infuriating in some ways. It's just part of the global conspiracy. But we're the ones, we've persisted, and we've gotten subtle clues that, no, desist. You know, like when, I don't know, our subscribers to our Patreon drop. It's really the man talking to us, telling us to stop covering Goblin news. But no, we know there's a story there. And finally, guys, concrete evidence. That's been always the problem, is we've had these accounts.
Wait, do we finally have the smoking goblin gun?
Brian, we've got as much proof as you could ever hope for. We've got conclusive proof. Finally, we've got video, we've got sound.
All right, in my mind, timeout on everything. All I want is to cut to a live tape of CNN with a interview with Gleebleglog, the goblin from the one who's finally crossed over to the human side, but
He's
I guess
running
not.
a really strong third party.
Yes, exactly.
So we've got video, we've got sound. What would you like to hear the sound of a goblin?
Yes.
Would you like to see a goblin?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can't see
I
the
would love to
goblin, but
see
you can see a
goblin. That'd be
person
great.
possessed by a goblin.
Oh.
See, a woman in the Philippines has apparently been possessed by a goblin, and they try to do an exorcism. And when you, and this is the headline, like, listen to the chilling voice of a goblin. I'm like, I gotta hear this goblin voice. So I've listened to the whole thing.
All right, take it
All
away,
right,
Bryce.
let's go. Come on. Let's go.
Ang tigray sabi, anak ko! Ang kapoy babagam, sikay manggagawa. Makailog sika.
Okay, laliran nyo! Pati yula yun! Ha? Kinyula! Kinyo! Mangkwakwanan! Ha? Si kwanto animo sa tulara pawilon, ha? Ha?
The goblin's about to come.
Ha? Syupa ka? Ha? Bawang nila! Ha? Ha? Sige!
Come on, Michigan J Frog, make with
Pati
it.
yula!
Yeah, right. Hurry up.
Get ready.
Isibok to, so ito na naman.
Oh, geez, that's chilling.
That's the goblin voice.
All right. So
It doesn't get any better. I kept waiting for a chilling goblin voice.
Man. So yet still unknown. We can't put a finger on it.
I mean, here's the thing, right? I don't want to undercut the like. You could tell that there's something very chilling happening in the room for everybody there, right? Like, there's something about live performance that makes you feel like you're a part of something. And if you're not live, then a live concert album doesn't have the same zing, does it?
Well, I was expecting maybe like it would sound like Apu from The Simpsons, or like some kind of
Oh,
Like,
you wanted
really-
the goblins to have even more racial stereotype problems.
I mean, you're a goblin. Like, who's going to tell you that that's politically incorrect?
You hear these stories where they talk about like, you know, oh, and that we really heard this very, very chilling voice, and you're like, man, I want to know what that's like when you hear that. And then every account I've ever heard, I've never heard somebody do a voice that didn't sound like them doing a voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or at least if they wanted to do a voice, they could, right?
Yeah.
Like if they're like, "Arm the goblin," like it would just kinda sound like it
maybe
would sound.
at its most impressive, you're like, oh, I didn't know you could do a Kentucky accent. That's amazing. That was really
That would
impressive.
be great if they were just all Colonel Sanders, like all. Well, here with my goblin coven, we make our chicken with 13 original herbs and spices.
Mr. Poop, that's Rick and Morty.
That would be great if it was just all of like the Justin Roiland voices that all kind of sound alike but are different enough that you can believe they're different characters.
Dude, I do believe there's a goblin in that guy. That's a fact.
I mean, there is one other media outlet that is very, very, very on top of the goblin crisis.
Yeah, you're talking about Pravda?
Well, no, I mean, it was kind of recent, and here, since we are covering politics, Bryce, if you could just Google Alex Jones Goblin Vine. It'll
you mean
it'll
this?
just be.
Goblin's nest, kissing goblins, goblin vomit, catch him in bed with a goblin. Trump charging into a goblin's nest, kissing goblins, goblin vomit, catch him in bed with a goblin.
Hold on. Is Alex Jones, my neighbor just up the road, is he trying to shoehorn his way into our goblin territory?
Listen, I'm just saying. I think he again. We will be sharing a city yet again, me and Mr. Jones, and it won't be as friendly as the Counting Crows song. You know, if we come into contact, I'm going to let him know that we're not going to get our corner taken on this goblin business.
Wow, you just managed to throw in The Wire and Counting Crows in one delightfully mashed up statement.
Listen, Brian, it's amazing what's possible when heat strokes in play.
When heat strokes in play. Hey, speaking of which, can we finally get back to our story of life on the road? I feel like you're method acting, Justin. I feel like when last we discussed our scenario, the world had appeared to pretty much end. 99.9%, only 1 in 1,000 of survivors. And you and I miraculously ended up connecting in Austin, Texas. After establishing that we had food, water, and a bit of supplies, we made the momentous decision to head out west, to travel along I-10 in some kind of battle van out to try to see if, just by luck, Andrew Main happened to be one of the survivors.
Yeah, and on your way, of course, to go check on Justin's
Check
wife.
on Ashley and Andrew. Well, our story starts when I wake up getting ready for our adventure. I hit my head on the side of a concrete wall and pass out for 4 minutes while I get through security.
Wait, what?
That's
and then he disconnected.
no, he ran into a concrete wall and fell asleep for about 4 minutes.
Oh, got it. So he has to get through security. I get it. Okay, so all right. So Justin's cashed out.
So
Banged his
Brian,
head.
you're driving. Justin's asleep on the side. You chose a vehicle, correct?
Yeah, I like the.
You went with like a Mad Maxy sort of idea. At
Yeah.
first.
No, I was talking about like bicycles and nonsense, but it sounds like the highways are fairly open, so I don't think you quite want a full on I guess it does have to be a diesel vehicle. I'm figuring one of those tour vans, not quite a full bus, but a tour van, something that's got a PlayStation in it. And
yeah,
then
I mean, you could. And another reason too is your goal. Bicycles, if you're trying to be stealthy around zombies, are great. But if you're riding on open roads and you're afraid of, snipers and roadblocks.
yeah, you definitely you want stuff between you and those bullets,
I
right?
mean, there was that celebrated German bicycle Panzer division.
Well, okay, so we heavily armor a tour van. I don't want to go full tour bus. It's a tour van, and we're driving. Now, when we get started, I guess we're gonna intersect with essentially one of the 2 or 3 main East Coast, West Coast arteries. We're gonna take Interstate 10, which takes you through El Paso, takes you through.
You haven't reached El Paso yet. You're taking Interstate 10. You're heading there. You're past like, I know, Van Horn or what. Actually, Van Horn actually made a version of that in my book Station Breaker as a town. So you're driving.
By the way, real quick, we stop and I spit out the window at Fort Stockton for giving Jay a ticket 20 years ago. And then also I weep silently knowing that my brother is dead along with everyone I ever cared for.
Including the person who gave him a ticket.
Yeah.
So here's what I want you first. Describe to us your van. Have you done anything to it? Have you customized this?
Oh, yeah. No. Okay. Assuming we've got time, and it sounds like we've got nothing but time and resources on our hands. I would imagine we armor plate the whole thing. You were saying diesel sticks around a while, right?
Yeah, I mean, diesel's a pretty reliable sort of fuel as far as, being able to have it remains,
it doesn't evaporate and dissipate the way unleaded does. Okay.
I wouldn't go too crazy. I think you're going to be fine for the next year or so.
Yeah. Well, and in fact, it's possible to run a diesel engine vehicle on vegetable oil. Like once the engine is primed and running, so it's like it's pretty negotiable on what kind of fuel you use.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we take that, we armor it the hell out. I'm thinking full on Mad Max, right? This big beefy van. We get a few guns. You figure a sniper rifle, some shotguns.
Do you build like I don't know, like do you have like little slots and stuff so you can shoot out of it?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying is cover up all the windows and just put slots in there because that's something I know how to do, right? And the other thing is like, since we can't rely on the AC and stuff to work forever, hopefully I'm thinking all that mass will act as a little bit of thermal insulation, both from heat and cold wherever we take it.
It's going to be an oven, Brian. Let's be honest.
I mean, once you're going 70 miles an hour, assuming we make it up to 70, should get some good airflow.
It's going to be an oven. I'd put some AC in there.
Wait. I wrapped the whole thing in aluminum foil just in case.
Oh my God.
Just hoping.
I just woke up. Oh, jeez, what happened?
Oh, dude, I put together. I armored up. You remember we went down south to San Marcos where they sell RV vans because we had that whole discussion about how I didn't want to get a full-on tour bus because I was worried about maneuverability. So we settled on an RV van, right? And so I totally covered it in armor. It's got these slits that we can shoot stuff out of. I was just about to provision the vehicle, and I'm so glad you woke up. What should we provide in here?
Well, we're going to need foodstuffs.
Yep.
So, I like the idea that Brian put a vending machine in there and is charging Justin money to use it.
But I go through the bother of minting my own Brian Bucks currency, and it's like I'm pedantic about this when it's like every time he says he calls them dollars, I'm like Brian Bucks. They're Brian Bucks. This is the new world.
Yeah.
Nobody's minting currency. It's up to me, Brian Bucks.
And then you went and raised the price of Dr. Pepper because it's the only soda I like. Everything else is free.
And I'm like, it's called splurge pricing. That's a new word that I made up.
Yeah, hey, listen, man, free market. This is just what happens. Supply and demand, buddy.
And then I turn and I say,
turns out this apocalypse didn't kill the invisible hand, bitch.
Yeah, right? I was like, before I give you anything, I say, first you have to pray to Milton Friedman and thank him for the apocalypse, in which finally my anarcho-capitalist society is complete.
Now, when you're building this, you would remember a conversation that you had with me, and I made some suggestions just as a thought to think about.
Sure. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, let me turn my mind back right now and remember what you were saying.
We're sitting around a campfire, and I'm like, Brian, apocalypse will never happen, but if it did happen, one, you guys need to come get me, and two, if you're to build a vehicle, there's some suggestions.
Yeah.
You can your roof rack. Build a roof rack. Think about those safari vehicles in Africa where you can put a bunch of fuel cans on top. You can put a generator on top too. So if you wanted to power, if you wanted to keep some stuff cold, you want to have a refrigerator, like, nice cold, icy cold one. Nobody's going to stop you for DOI in apocalypse.
Ooh, yeah. That's the takeaway.
Fair
Nobody
point,
can
man.
stop you for
I feel
DUI.
Like Andrew just said that, and in my head, it was just Van Halen's Beautiful Girls opening riff. Like this is going to be the best.
Road trip.
So you're against the AC. I'm like, no, you're going to have AC. You're going to have a chiller. You're going to have a refrigerator in there. Put a generator on top, too, so you can have extra fuel cans. Put all that stuff. Think of like African Safari. Think of the vehicles, how you use all that roof space.
Dude, on our way. We are headed out west. We're into that 85-mile-an-hour territory where it's like, I assume, no traffic, just sagebrush as far as the eye can see. That wide open Texas highway.
You've got maybe some buggy whip antennas. Maybe you've got a bunch of radio stations tuned. You have like maybe 4 or 5 radio stations open at the same time.
Oh, because we're broadcasting, right?
You're listening. No, you're listening.
Yeah, I think we're also broadcasting. I think in fact, while we're driving, we're taking turns being the world's only DJ.
Jack Burton.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Press.
Dibs on afternoon drive. I'm not. trying to wake
Damn
up
it!
that early.
I told you I wanted drive time. God.
No. Oh yeah, you can get morning drive time. Don't worry, Howard Stern. Go
All right.
ahead.
All right, fine.
Ply your trade at 5:30
While
in the morning.
Justin sleeps, I wake up and I do 5 minutes on my slightly soupy diarrhea and about how I'm victimized, even though I'm literally the only remaining vestige of early morning radio.
All right, so let's talk about this. So, what are you doing for your bathroom breaks?
I mean, I'm thinking just side of the road, right? I mean, is there ain't no reason to hold on to none of that.
I mean, there's still wild animals and stuff out there, but
Well, yeah, but we're not even like that would be a factor if we were building a village or something.
Okay.
You know,
But I would have a box of adult diapers there just in case.
of box of what?
Adult diapers. You know.
Oh wait, you're okay.
It's
I mean,
you never
I don't
know.
know.
You
What,
never know
did,
when you might
did,
get trapped.
did the
by
apocalypse
marauders or
also
whatever.
take out all the buckets?
Yeah, and all the Dr. Pepper plastic bottles. Hey man, we were promised
God.
by the environmentalists that these would be around for thousands of years.
So
Listen, I don't
are
wanna-
you-
I don't wanna
Are you
get
guys going to
numbered.
be, sleeping in shifts? Or are you just going to keep like nonstop driving?
Oh yeah, no. It's. I mean, I've done long distance driving and stuff before. Like we can each flip, and who's ever sleeping isn't driving, and vice versa.
Yeah, but the one thing that's weird is how because we have the one radio station, we make the other one promise that they're definitely going in the back to listen, even though secretly we know they're not listening to the program at all. But then when they wake up again, they're all like, "No, it was great. That bit you were doing, hilarious." And the guy's like, "Yeah, right."
And no, I feel like it's getting tighter every day. Every day we try that.
Oh man, we're finding that voice. We're finding the voice of the whole station. Think about it, man. We can franchise this stuff. As soon as we find other living individuals, this is gonna be huge.
I like the idea that you guys are somewhere near, I don't know, we'll say Comfort or some of these small towns there, like a little 3-street small town, and you're like, hey, you guys carry guns? Are you packing, by the way, when you walk around?
Oh,
Oh hell yeah!
I mean, first of all, we very rarely get out of this thing. Like, we stop we stop for two things. We stop at all of the Dairy Queens, and we stop at the fuel stops.
Okay. So, but you're packing. What are you packing?
I mean, Justin's a weird one because he's got this. I call it a short sword. He didn't like it. He says it's an extra long machete. But he's a big fan of it.
Not really. What would
also,
you
I have a
really-
gun.
Yes. Well, so okay, this is actually an important consideration under the rules that we are playing in this universe. You probably, I'm gonna say, it's not the best ammo, but I'm gonna say you would base everything on 9mm just because that will be the most abundant supply if you want to live off the land.
Okay. So what's your everyday carry? What do you when you step outside Battle Van? You need to come up with a name.
Actually, you know what? I take that back. I'm gonna do like a snub-nosed 45, a revolver, for close quarters. I will keep a blade on me at all time, and I guess just a straight up like deer hunting rifle, something with a lot of penetration that but I don't know how precise the sighting is going to remain as we travel.
Yeah, I would be torn. I mean, I would have a sidearm. I'd probably use a a magazine-based pistol so I can reload pretty quickly, because the problem with the revolver is trying to do a speed load on that. But each one's your choice.
Well, I guess specifically I'm thinking the revolver because it's a simple design. And here's one of the weird things: is if this apocalypse happened in the 1980s, we would be better equipped to weather it because we would all of the data, all of the knowledge would still just be in books that are precisely categorized in the library. Whereas nowadays we rely on everything being digital, and I'm just assuming all that kind of stops working as the servers fail
Right.
and power goes out and so on.
So let's say a pistol. You're gonna go for like a hunting rifle. I'm torn between a hunting rifle or a shotgun myself. Advantage of a shotgun is you don't have to be as precise.
Yes, but you don't have the distance. That's all
Exactly.
close
And
quarters.
that's the advantage of your rifle.
Right.
Is that if you're
So-
in a small town and somebody's taking pop shots at you,
I'm going to say the moment we step outside, I've got a hunting rifle slung over my back and a sidearm and a blade. But meanwhile, inside the van is nothing but shotguns. Like, that's all. If they come at us, we are prepared with blunderbusses, basically.
and Justin's armed with his wit and a ball gag. So at some point, you guys stop at a town, and you're both like, "Hey, I'm gonna go get something. All right, I'll be cool. I'm gonna get something too." And you're like, "All right, be back here in 15 minutes." You got like air horn sirens, each carry one of those, right?
Yeah. So here's how far are
Whoa,
we?
whoa, whoa. We're leaving each other's company? At
Yeah,
any
no,
time?
that's not happening. Well,
and then but you do, and then like you both meet each other in the XXX section of the video store.
oh, that's awkward.
You're like, "I gotta go get something." All right, cool. Wait, what are you doing back there? I thought you were listening to my radio show.
By the way, for the record, and I'm so sad that the window's closing on adult bookstores as the internet has made pornography available to everyone. But I always thought, like, for truckers, there should be a giant sign that says, "Get off, next exit." And no, just me? All right.
My friends Peter and Isabel walked in just at this time. Perfect. You guys look great.
Awesome.
Have fun
Seems
at the
legit.
wedding.
So at any point as we head west, do we ever see any other people? Have we
We're
encountered
getting to
anyone?
that. We're just this journey's just begun, Bri.
Okay, good. All right.
So now that we know, we need a name for the vehicle, and I want our fans out there, our listeners, to suggest a name for what this vehicle should be called, what Justin and Brian have embarked upon. Maybe a name for whatever radio show that they're continuously doing on every channel they can.
No, dude, it's got to be Shai Halud.
We're going to talk about next week because, Brian, Justin, you guys are driving along, and you see a solitary figure clothed in black walking along the road with their thumb out.
All right. Oh,
I hope, man, I hope that they're a puppeteer.
I don't know what that means.
You know where like they do those puppet things where they dress all in black, and then like they turn on the lights. but you can
got
only
it.
See the
It
puppet.
turns out it's a member of a Japanese puppetry theater company. Got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no.
Next week, we'll find out what happens.
Wow, this is. I'm excited. I don't know where this is going.
I mean, we're going west to pick up to
Well,
Andrew.
all right. Don't come on, Weisenheimer. Why don't you
So,
get off
gentlemen,
next exit?
We've got another topic. But before we jump into that topic, we got a big topic out to talk about my voice training. We need your help out there, listeners. We need your support. We
Heck
need
yes. Look, man, Weird Things is only made possible by the fantastic donations of people who dig our bizarre storytelling. If you get a smile, if you enjoy hearing about the weird news out there, if you want to hear us grouse about Alex Jones stealing our Goblin Thunder, then we need your support. Please, please, please head on over to patreon.com. That's patreon.com/weird things and sign up. Join the ranks of the proud. We'd love it if we got up to 500 patrons, keeping us loud, live, and independent.
all up to you. So, talking about big plans, dreaming big, big ambitions. I'm going to say his name and invoke his name. Got some Elon Musk news.
Oh, yeah. Dude, there was some article I ran across talking about how SpaceX will never, ever have an IPO, that the market is inherently too adverse to the long-term thinking that it takes to run a rocket company. And I was like, Man, I don't know if I believe it. I think they will do an IPO, and I think then I would love to give them some money and own a piece of space.
Yeah, that's a discussion for another time. And there's Elon Musk has written a very interesting letter on, to like, because part of the reason you do an IPO though is to reward all of your employees, because if they have stock, and they do have stock in the company, at some point they want to know that they're sort of their private markets, which you can trade certain within the capacity, but the real valuation doesn't come until you have an IPO. So one of the pressures for an IPO is for that. But if you are able to supplement that with dividends or something, so I don't know. But let's talk about what he talked about with Tesla.
This is his manifesto that he wrote. Manifesto Part 2.
This is the art of storytelling Part 2.
The Elon Musk issued his big plan Part 2. Let me see if I can pull this up here on the blog.
So from what I heard, I never read the first part. I didn't read the second part because I didn't want to be lost on the story, because I didn't want to watch the sequel first and then, not know what happened in the original. What happened in his original manifesto? Because apparently he seems to feel like he's already realized all of his dreams and wants to make new ones.
Because he spells out his first manifesto in like 8 words at the beginning of the second manifesto. He basically says the first manifesto was
I will read
build
it
a very
to you.
expensive
1,
car.
create a low volume car which would necessarily be expensive, which was the Tesla Roadster. Step 2, use that money to develop a medium volume car at a lower price, which is the Model S. 3, use that money to create an affordable high volume car, which would be the Model 3. 4, provide solar power. And so this has been a big part of what they want to do. And that's why he's been an investor in Solar City, which is Cousin's own. And now they're planning to acquire Solar City and fold that into Tesla. So Solar City is the largest installer of solar panels in the United States. And they're looking to gear up and start building their own factories. And Elon wants to tie all that together in their own power system. So that was part 1. That was his first plan, right? Now he's moved on, and it's worth reading. If you go to TeslaMotors.com and you click on updates, you can read about this. And he gets into sort of the plan this is the, in short, master plan part 2. He actually says part 2, like Hot Shots. And he writes it as this: create stunning solar roofs with seamlessly integrated battery storage. He means for homes. I read some like tech blogger who was like, oh, for cars? It's like, no, it's not a battery juice. Turn in your card. You cannot talk about tech ever again. 2, expand the electric vehicle product line to address all major segments. So he doesn't just want to make the Model 3. He says they want to do a pickup truck. He says they're working actually on a tractor, like a semi. They actually want to do an electric semi to be able to pull, because he wants to be able to control, do all aspects of transportation. They're working on a bus. He says that they have an idea for kind of a smaller sort of bus where people can get on and off faster. It could be you put it into a city, and if somebody's at a bus stop, they press a button and a bus shows up. If you need to go to some other location, it will take you to that location. So he's got very ambitious ideas for self-driving buses that Tesla wants to make. And 4, which is, he says number 3 was develop a self-driving capability that's 10 times safer than a manual versus massive than manual. And
that does not seem terribly challenging to me. Like, I mean, we kill so many people.
Boring.
No. I mean, but what I mean by that, like, that sounds like a bombastic, high-minded claim, and people are like, oh, well, how's it going to tell the difference between a police officer flagging you down versus a hitchhiker or whatever? All of those are like, how about this? Let's just have perfect reaction time and stop running over people who are in the highway or whatever. I mean, all the dumb ways that distracted driving kills 30,000+ people in America every single year.
So, they obviously, I mean, given that we'll still have the reports, there has been already a fatality with the beta version of self-driving. So statistically speaking, it's going to be a little while longer, but more of these Teslas on the roads as they increase the capability. They have all these Tesla vehicles are providing data to help them improve that. And he says they'll take beta. He'll no longer call it beta when they reach that 10 times level. Okay? Right. So that's a big goal. Then the other thing he said, which is and this is something I've been dismissive of. I'm like, I don't see this happening. I don't think they'll do this. And Musk has come right out and said that this is a plan, is that when you're done with your car, you're sitting at home and you're done, you can press a button and you can turn your car into a Uber type car, basically a ride sharing car.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And I mean, let me give me the most pessimistic version of the case that you can make on this, because
For which part?
for the sharing part, for farming out your Uber.
So
Well, I mean, I think that's something where, you know, even more so than the buses, which you can put on kind of a short track because you already have routes for stuff, and you can, you know, make allowances for a self-driving municipal city bus or even a private bus. The idea of a self-driving Uber type of vehicle will be reliant on more and more regulation. You know, we're pretty much at the outer ends. Like, you would have just regular self-driving cars, I think, before you would have regular self-driving Uber cars.
Well, so let's start with a version of this that we could do literally tomorrow. Why not have an app that is Uber, and you just provide the cars, and somebody who lives downtown, because all the cars go out to the suburbs at night, and then, but in the morning they all come back into town. Nobody wants to park, and let's say, for sake of discussion, there's a bunch of people who would love to drive but don't own a car. Like, you can already half do it with people. I guess your hesitation is technological. Is that what it is?
No, my hesitation is legal. My
Brian,
hesitation
as a
is through
citizen of
legislation.
Austin, tell us.
Yeah, but I feel like Austin's kicking out the Uber and Lyft. Not even kicking it out. I don't know. I feel like that's an outlier. I'm not so much worried about the legal side of things, because there are already people, like, when somebody drives a cab, they don't own the cab. Some other institution owns the cab.
Oh yeah, no. My issue isn't the ride sharing part, or even that somebody would have the instinct to want to just put their car out into the wilderness. My thing is just that, like, it will, that is a subdivision of, we have self-driving cars on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, is something that's still is a little ways off in terms of it just being allowed, like, you know, just clearing the legal hurdles. I think that we will have the tech for it. I mean, at an aggressive pace, 5 to 10 years before we actually see them out on the road in a capacity that people want to be like, oh yeah, and now let's also do Uber with them.
Man, I guess I gotta disagree. I think the second the tech becomes possible, we start doing it, because are the only part of your description that I really can't reconcile my mind is the part where they solve the technology part, and then for 5 to 10 years we just shrug and deal with incredible congestion, highways overcrowded, everybody complaining, parking being a problem, and all that stuff. It seemed like it just seems like the moment we have the technological capacity, somebody will figure out a way to flip that instantly.
I just don't see legislatures acting that fast, though. I think that's the problem is that the will can be there, and even politicians could say, yes, we need to do this, but there are so many things between, you know, Department of Transportation, highways, local municipalities, you know, national highway boards, all these other things that have to, that kind of inertia is so, you know, we can know, like, oh, we need to do this, but also in their vested interests that don't want that to happen. You know, you don't want, you know, as you know, we've talked about this before. We called it on this show that insurers may have a problem with self-driving cars, because as fewer people have cars, fewer people need to pay for higher ticket policies for protection. You know, and that's, now we've seen some pushback from the insurance industry about this, and there's concerns within there about this, about the fact that if we start shifting more and more people giving up car ownership, that's going to have a material impact on them.
We had an email from an insurance agent that said, yeah, no, this is like a known major issue, like, on the horizon for our business. And listen, like, considering I'm here at the Democratic National Convention, I'm not in the business of arguing with entrenched unions that don't want to see things like changed, and entrenched organizations that have political influence. But I think, I mean, maybe theoretically something like that would stand in the way.
Well, and I guess I don't know. The only other thing I could throw out there is the fact that right now, none of this is, or virtually none of this is specifically prohibited by law. And that means, so what you're saying is not that it'll take a long time to lobby for and get laws passed that explicitly give permission to do things. What you guys are saying is that they will predictively figure out what people are going to try to do and make sure to put laws out prohibiting it beforehand.
We've already seen it, right? Wasn't it Nevada that or no? Nevada was
California.
Nevada was the
So
worst. They explicitly said the reverse. Yeah, they explicitly said, please bring all of your robot cars.
Yeah, no. It was
Well, no, but in
California.
California, Google wanted to say, hey, can we make it if anybody's in our car, we will be the insurer for that. We'll take care of that. When they passed the automated driving regulations, they specifically said, nope, individuals have to have their own policies. And why did that happen? That was the insurance companies.
A very, very wise person once said to me, technology outpaces legislation. And
in the long run.
I mean, yes, I'm going to say that the technology all legislation could do is lean on what lawmakers can predict people will do with the technology. What they actually do with the technology will happen much, much faster and by definition be much more unexpected than whatever laws are pre-written to ban different things.
Yeah, but Brian, if you cracked all the things you need to do to make self-driving completely work door to door and you announced it right now, not legal. That's the problem is you cannot put another passenger into that vehicle and not have them near the steering wheel. The technology would be there, but the laws would say, nope, not going to happen. And there are going to be interests that are going to.
Not even worried about it. Like right now, what you do is you just stick 16-year-olds in all of those driver's seats. You explain to them that they can sit there and tinker around playing Pokemon Go, catch them all, and make slightly better than minimum wage to do it. And you keep that vestige as long as it takes. You have that fig leaf of there's a person there until you don't need to anymore.
Well, I think. And we've done a million versions of this argument, and I don't think that we're really all that far off. But I think unless Andrew has another wrinkle on it, but you asked what's the most pessimistic you could take on it, and that was my answer. The most pessimistic is that I just think this happens after there are widespread self-driving cars for personal use, because I do think that Uber is a subsection of people personally owning cars.
Yeah.
And that is something that we'll need to, as our political system is currently set up and where the carrots and sticks lay politically, which is always subject to change. And who knows whether or not Uber, instead of knife fighting with city councils, eventually just starts looking to pour a ton of money into K Street and start lobbying things federally, and that's something that could definitely put this into play a lot more. It would just take a little bit.
I want to address something though, in that, in your situation, Brian, your solution is, well, just put a low-paid human in back of the wheel. Well, that's what Uber is. That's what we have. That the thing where I have a car and I press a button and I don't have to go hire somebody to go take my car around to collect fares. I'm saying to get to that point, that version, if that ain't gonna happen while in the present legal system.
Okay. Yeah. I think from here on out, all we have is the same territory to go over again. I am much more optimistic. I think that people pivot much quicker. In their opinions.
I hope the case is like you will get certain states and stuff and places will, be much more forward thinking about that. And I think that's what I think it happens. And it's, big, another argument for, the power of states is that, you get a state that wants to be very forward with this and let them be the experiment thing. And I think if that happens, then it becomes like, yes, it worked there. And it's so easy to be dismissive to say, no, it won't work. Why don't we try it? Nope. Cost of human life. We can't risk the robots doing that. And then you have the total opposite version of the precautionary principle, which, we've talked about before, where actually more people die because you won't do a thing.
Yeah.
And it's just, the reason to be inert.
Dude, absolutely.
I do think that we are totally on the same page on where it is eventually going. I think it is at this point, barring evidence that we have yet unseen, something that is coming. It's a matter of the exact implementation of it, and when it actually comes to pass. Because also, who knows at the point where this is a thing, what the needs of people are in terms of that. Like that stuff does change over time, and
we are certainly in a period of disruption for what it means to own a vehicle. I mean, I'm at the point where now it costs me more just to have a car than not, because of where I am. And if I just Uber to the airport and take BART all over the place, then that's just, it just makes sense. And I think that is more of a reality in cities that aren't New York City or Chicago or Boston, where public transportation is a regular thing in the States now more than ever. So who knows?
So one quick question before we wrap up the Musk manifesto. Was there significant talk in there about what the plan is to, because solar energy is yes, it's cheap, abundant, it's all over the place, or I guess the energy itself is raining down from the skies. But the problem is not the ability to capture it and convert it into electricity. The problem is with battery, with storage, basically. Like, is there any solutions or benchmarks?
Tesla Powerwall. That's the Powerwall. That was part of the whole plan. Is the idea they have Tesla.
So it doesn't outline or predict or rely upon new battery technology, because those Powerwalls are just lithium ion, right?
Well, but I mean, lithium ion is a catch-all phrase that describes many different chemistries, and there. So a Tesla lithium ion battery is going to be radically different than the one in your iPad, and so.
But we're not talking. We're not talking 10x different. We're talking
not 10x difference, but they've increased their efficiencies considerably when they first came out, though.
Right.
So I mean, it's for him to base it on a technology that we don't have, like some graphene based thing or something like that, would not probably be prudent.
I guess I'm just sort of radiating out. Just as you guys are less than optimistic about the ability of the legal framework to have cars driving around on their own, I am very pessimistic about iterative battery transformations happening. It's like it seems like we need a massive change in how we do batteries, and a technology like the liquid metal batteries, where it's super hot and you got lava basically in there.
There's a lot of interesting ideas, out there that are coming. But I mean, there's again, if you take a look at how much batteries have advanced, I mean, the reason we talk about drones now is that we came up with batteries that were light enough and powerful enough to actually lift themselves with electric motors. That was not possible with a battery 10 years ago in that capacity. And so there's been a lot of improvement. It's been incremental, and we haven't had this sort of big, huge phase change. We're like, oh my God, but you look at the amount of energy we get out of a lithium, new modern lithium ion chemistries versus 10 years ago, it's changed. Like, yeah, I don't think we can have a wonderful incremental step using, the current state-of-the-art lithium ion batteries and power walls. And if you live in a place with a lot of sunlight, you're not quite at the point where it makes more sense than buying your electric, but within 10 years, yeah, we're going to reach that. I think it's like 2025, 2027 or something like that's probably the break-even point where, solar is as cheap as conventional electric.
Well, that's good.
But yeah, absolutely, Brian. Storage is still an issue with that, and you also have, again, so where I live in Florida, or at my house, Florida, I'm here most of the time, but in Florida, I can't have electric panels put on my roof without going through my power company and using one of their licensed whatever official ways to do that, and they make it so difficult to do that because the government passed laws that basically said that they can't really have, you can't have like. Really, third parties can't go sell you this sort of stuff. It all has to go through the power company.
Wow, that's crazy.
Man, how does that happen? That doesn't seem like that's
I mean, it's that's the trade-off.
In Florida, I'm shocked that it doesn't also come with you having to buy a pound of sugar.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just exactly that. Is it it comes in because of. You have this monopoly that has enough control and is able to sort of say, hey, they pass it through the idea of like, oh, we have this new solar initiative. We're going to increase, we're going to help you do this sort of thing. And then part of that is the caveat is like, yeah, make the integrity of our grid. We got to make sure that, we don't want to have bad stuff there,
So in the chat room, somebody was saying, Jotmon was saying, why not a power grid where the sunny parts of the planet can provide power to the cloudy areas? I don't think that. I think the energy transmission or the loss, the resistance from point A to point B? I don't think that's possible, right?
Well, I mean, we do to an extent. We have like power grids on the West Coast and the East Coast. You know, they go back and forth. But yeah, there's a point at which, after you're trying to transmit at a certain amount of distance, and yeah, it becomes problematic. And there are a lot of different energy sources where, you know, different places you go to, you know, and you're closer towards the equator, solar is really good year round. You go further north, you have possibilities of geothermal, hydroelectric, and there are a lot of different ways you can get power. And wind is my least favorite because I do think it's ugly, but you have these different capabilities, and part of it is just they're more expensive than the way we have. It's getting those costs down. And that's one of the things people are like, why don't we just go all solar? Like, do you want to pay 5 times what you pay for electric right now? You know?
Well, yeah. So the problem is like at some point you run a wire far enough, and then you realize like that for cheaper than the wire to get from this dam all the way to here, you could just set up a photovoltaic locally, or set up geothermal, or set up whatever the local power supply is.
Yeah.
Or even, you know, at some point it becomes cheaper to ship coal in to just burn it right there.
Yeah, but, you know, and again, part of my pessimism in general is like, you know, like in Florida, we have abundant sunlight, but we've limited the growth of solar power companies because the power utilities have made it very, very restrictive, you know, and it's frustrating. Absolutely frustrating. You know?
The sunshine when we allow you to use it state.
Yeah, I mean, this is my father's been on the news quite a lot. I don't know if you saw the whole thing about the green slime off the coast of Florida.
Oh, no, I've totally missed this. How have I not heard of this?
So type in, let's do a Bryce.
Yeah, here we go. He's pulling it up right now.
So what this is they have this the farming industry, and they have in the water system there in the lakes, they've built up a lot of like, you know, fertilizer or whatever. There's like satellite photos and stuff too. So you can see in Stewart, that's where my parents live. You see all this green slime, you know, all around the boats, everything else, which is killing off a lot of the local seagrasses and animals and stuff. It's very, very bad. And what happened is Army Corps of Engineers decided to release water from like Lake Okeechobee, whatever, which is filled with fertilizer, which went through there and caused this humongous algae bloom.
Wow.
And the problem is that you have the sport fishing industry actually brings in more money than actually, like, you know, Big Sugar does and farming does. So it's been a very problematic thing where this was caused by Army Corps Engineers decided to release water from there that we've known is polluted. We've known that has this in there. We've asked them not to do this. And it's become a big local water management issue. My father and my mom, you know, been very active in this. My father's been taking reporters out on his boat, you know, taking them, showing them all the, you know, the locations where this has been a problem at. And, you know, it's been a problem for, you know, periodically for years. So,
yeah. And by the way, just for anybody listening, I think we've said this before, but Andrew's family, a very law and order family. like very literally a family of you know, federal law enforcement agents, and his dad has been very active in local environmental causes, but I mean, just understand how serious it is. This is not, you know, just some, you know, random hippie cause. We have other friends that are random hippies that also get environmental causes, but Andrew's dad, a very by the book law and order guy that understands what you know is a for real, like, serious problem, and this has been a problem for a while.
It's not a you know, he's not an earth firster sort of Greenpeace type person. My dad's a local fisherman, sport, you know, catch and release, very involved in conservation issues, and you know, that's been a problem in the area. Is that you have kind of a tragedy of the commons where this fertilizer gets pushed out through there, and it goes through there, and it's, you know, more, you know, tourism. Florida's a very tourism heavy state, and the problem is that you have a lot of vested interest between Big Sugar and the farms and all that say, hey, we want uses less water, we don't really want to have to treat it. And there have been solutions there as far as what the government can do as far as building stuff, but there's just been this inertia to do anything about it. So, you know, you have these algae blooms which go in there and kill the seagrass and, you know, make it so you can't catch fish.
How long is it expected that the algae blooms will continue to? Because the blooms are an effect of artificially enriched fertilized water, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So as far as how long, I don't know. I don't know how long that lasts for. But also, you have a problem where it damages it, and you might have it go away, but then you've got to wait for the life to come back, and so you've got a bunch of different fish that nest there, that that spawning grounds. You have it's a very problematic thing on the entire ecosystem. So
Interesting.
and it's where you can see satellite photos of this thing. You see it from, like, let's do Algae Bloom Space or satellite.
No kidding. Wow.
And
Yeah, no, there it is. New satellite images show the extent of Florida algal bloom. That's crazy. That's
Yep.
insane.
So fun times.
Right on. So sorry, Florida. Is the theme for today's episode.
Don't worry, guys. We'll be there next weekend to heal the land.
Yeah. We're going to be, man, it's a good time to segue into plugs and stuff. Both Justin and I are going to be out at CreateCon. Andrew, is there any way we can entice you out there?
What is CreateCon?
CreateCon is a
one-day.
one-day. We're not going to say it's meant to fill the Nerdtacular-sized hole in everyone's heart this year, but it is a one-day attempt to band-aid it this year in Orlando, Florida, put on by I can never pronounce Garrett's last name.
Garrett Weinzierl.
Weinzierl. There you go.
Of amove.tv. Primarily, it's a lot of video game podcasts. So a lot of Heroes of the Storm, a lot of Hearthstone, a lot of the Gamers Inn, and then we were asked to kind of be the nighttime entertainment. So we will cap the night off with Night Attack. It takes place in downtown Orlando, and we very much hope that next Saturday everybody who is in that area can come out and see us. And this is something that it makes a lot more sense, and Andrew will certainly be sympathetic to the fact that downtown Orlando has always been a very, very weird place in that a lot of tourists come into Orlando, but they usually wind up going to theme parks, and they stay in hotels near the theme parks, and then they go home. Downtown Orlando has always been in flux and has had good times and bad times, and especially considering what happened a month and a half ago, the horrifying tragedy down there. I for one am very excited to be able to go back down there and dump some money into the local businesses, because that is a area that very, very easily can kind of wither and die and cost so many people beyond the horrifying tragedy their livelihood. So I'm excited to go back down there and help do whatever small part we can to bring a little money to downtown Orlando.
Tickets are still available if you go to bit.ly/CreateCon, CreateCon. It's an Eventbrite, and that's on the 30th.
Excellent. You guys have any picks?
I do. I'm late to this one. In fact, I believe I'm dead last out of the three of us.
What?
Yeah, and it's not for a lack of interest, and it wasn't even a lack. I bought it as soon as I could, and then didn't get around to it. But I'm finally listening to Andrew Main's book, Name of the Devil, available right now on Audible.com. And man, I had forgotten how much I enjoyed the world and the characters, and already at the beginning of Name of the Devil, I could tell that I think I'll like this one even more, because it deals so much more with Jessica Blackwood's family being in the magic business, and the nature of what it's like to put on productions, and I live for those little details, Andrew, that you get exactly right, that you could only know from having spent at least a decade in the magic biz. It's so great. I'm really enjoying it.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. It means a lot to me.
Yeah, the Name of the Devil. If you liked, for whatever reason, if you liked the first Jessica Blackwood novel, I mean, so much bigger, so much more global, literally, and so much more of everything that you love, including, yeah, you're right, Brian. The introduction of Jessica Blackwood's family is just. Oh, it's
just
too real.
It's so much
too real.
Exactly. It's so much. I know that guy. I know that tour. I know that. It's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Justin, do you have a pick?
Man, to be honest, my pick has been the only thing that I've been focusing on over the last week, which is what's it called? The coverage there on BitTorrent.
BitTorrent News. If you guys have not tuned in, you have been missing it. We've had bootleg streams available at diamondclub.tv. If you missed the news, Justin is a full-on news anchor covering the political maelstrom happening at the Democratic and Republican national conventions. Man, RNC, you didn't know what kind of, turns out it's a random noise generator. The RNG is what it is. There was some amazing stories, and it was so good to tune in to BitTorrent News and see Justin dressed in a Charmander costume following the story.
Yeah, by the way, I was wondering, I'm like, man, the RNC was so much news, and obviously, with the Trump campaign, they are a freewheeling campaign. I think that would be probably the best way to describe it. And there was no shortage of stuff to talk about, including Ted Cruz's big thing, and there was this little delegate revolt that we were on top of, or attempted revolt, unsuccessful revolt that we were on top of from the very beginning. And I'm like, man, I don't know. I feel like this Democratic National Convention is just going to be kind of paint by numbers. But as I speak to you guys right now, I'm looking down at my press pass, and it is incorrect. I might need to go get it corrected, because it certainly says down here that my press pass is authorized by my former Congresswoman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the DNC chair, which is absolutely incorrect and invalid right now, as she resigned because WikiLeaks started leaking internal emails from the Democratic National Committee during the primary, which went and got her booted out. This was a very, resign so you don't get fired situation. So now certainly far more news than I was expecting. And man, am I excited to chop it all up for everybody.
You got to go to Drudge Report right now and look at the photo he chose.
Oh, geez. I know one man in Miami doing a naked
Oh my
cartwheel.
God. There's definitely a picture of a jackass on the front page.
A big donkey's butt.
Yeah.
And Drudge is a fascinating study, and probably worth you talking at some point on After Things about, one person's ability to influence the news for better or for worse, and his selection of images, for a site that doesn't have officially commentary, the way he juxtaposes whatever images he wants to put over what point he wants across.
You're totally right. Like, to express your opinion through nothing but curation of other content, of aggregated content. It's like you don't get to decide what comes down that pipeline. You can only decide in what order you will show it and which pieces you will highlight.
Yeah, oh man. I mean, there was a thing during the RNC last week where Alex Jones, who we had brought up earlier in the show, confronted a recording ran into the set of the Young Turks, which is another big new media outlet, and all I could think of is, those are two outlets for which politically I don't I don't agree with a lot from either, but I was just kind of like, man, like what. Why do we gotta fight each other, man? Like, why do the independents? Why do we gotta fight each other? Why aren't we storming the mainstream media stuff? Because this is something that obviously we all have a tremendous vested interest is in independently created media entities, and that's certainly something that we hope to honor and continue to build on with BitTorrent News.
How did this Alex Jones Young Turks thing come to pass? Was it just
a slap fight for no reason. Like, I don't know. It's super boring. Basically, Alex Jones says that he was asked on set. The Young Turks says he wasn't asked on set. They got on set, and then they were both on camera, and then it turned into like a
barking dogs and yeah. It's my dogs Sneakers and Kepler going at it. They're playing until they're not playing anymore.
Except one of them was screaming about how Roger Stone was the biggest liar in media or something like that.
Okay. Although Sneakers does do that as well, but that's fine.
Yeah. He has strong opinions on Roger Stone. But anyway, yeah, so that's basically all I've been focusing on.
Well, I have a pick,
Good.
and it's been mentioned here before, but I'm going to say that there should have been more enthusiasm on this pick.
It's Name of the Devil by me, Andrew Main.
Me. I mentioned it and I watched it and I fell in love. It was one of those, I'm just going to watch, I'm going to watch one episode before I go to bed. Then the sun's up.
Yeah.
Stranger Things.
Oh, good. What? So I'm starting the 4th episode now, so I'm about halfway through. What is it that hooked you?
I was hooked in the first 5 minutes because it takes place in 1983, and so for Brian and I mean, this is a very familiar
nostalgia bomb.
decade for us.
Yeah.
When you have 3 goofball 12-year-old kids sitting around playing a D&D campaign, and and all of what it's like to be 12, all of what it's like to be that age at that point in life. The casting was phenomenal for the kids. The story hooked me in, and in the way they said it's an 8-episode series. It's a standalone season. They could do a season 2 and pick up with characters and some themes, but they wanted to do a standalone story. And the thing I kept thinking about was there have been multiple attempts to try to do Stephen King type stories on TV and even films. And one of the things that I will say about Stephen King stuff is that often some of his most interesting stories never end interesting. He's very good at throwing these things out there, but they never land.
Yeah.
And
He's
you
great at
just sort of
tone,
go,
great at questions, not so great at answers and wrap-ups.
that was a problem with Lost. That was a problem with a lot of stuff. Was like, what if? I thought this has been described as very Stephen King and Steven Spielberg-esque. Like if the early 1980s, these two got together to create, combining their best skills to tell a story. That's very much what Stranger Things feels like, and openly so. And Stephen King, had very high praise for it. They shot it cinematically. It doesn't look like TV. It looks like film. It's made by the Duffer Brothers, who wrote, and then they worked with his name escapes me. He's done some other really good stuff. Anyhow, it is a well-written, wonderfully casted, very engaging story. It's one of these things where there's a beginning, there's a middle, it has an ending. It's not you're left with questions and stuff, but you follow the story of what you're set out with. The story they start off with, you get that story.
Yeah.
I just was so impressed with it. I don't want to overpraise it and have people kind of go on and like, you made it sound like it was, the new invention of cheese or whatever, but like, I loved it. My favorite things in the last year, Mr. Robot season 1 started a year ago. Mr. Robot and Stranger Things. If you ask me to name the best TV or episodic format stuff I've seen, it would in the last couple of years. Fargo, this, and Mr. Robot.
Have you dived into Preacher? I know we've discussed it on the show.
No, I want to. I will get into Preacher.
I think I hit the realization that it's my favorite show on television right now, which I'm really surprised to come to that firm conclusion.
Yeah. I mean, I would argue like I think Game of Thrones is like the best show ever, but that's been around.
Man, not this season. This season, I really felt like I felt the loss of George R. R. Martin among the collaborators and
Man, you better knock it off before I light up some dragon, whatever pyromancer fluid underneath your house.
Oh, that's dragon fire. Wildfire, that's what it was called.
Yeah, I mean, Martin was in, talking to the producers and writers. This is what I'm going to do, and this is where we're going to go. And
yeah, I mean, I don't want to. It's like if I was going to rank seasons, this one has been largely fulfillment on promises that were delivered long earlier. There has been some surprises, and the 9/11 episode of Game of Thrones was extraordinary. But I don't know.
Understood.
Like I don't want to die on this hill. It's just not been my favorite season.
Well, no, this is one of your things, though, Brian. You and this is I've come to love it about you, is that like you very much, for somebody that hasn't grown up around like sports talk or like hot take radio, like
you definitely always have these like, because this is always the thing with like Preacher for you, where it's like I love Preacher. It's better than Game of Thrones.
I have to make it a con. So in other words,
Yes.
absent being a sports fan, I need something that
Exactly.
gives me an opposite take from other people. There has to be winners and losers. And,
It's just, yes, it's just like Preacher, better than Game of Thrones, and we'll take your calls after this note from Casper Mattress.
Yes. Okay.
So I'm gonna.
What I'm
gonna
saying
go
is
back
that
to
you
just a
should be
little
doing
bit of
Hotline
Stranger
Monday
Things.
instead of me.
Back to Stranger Things for a moment.
Sure.
I my music tastes are all over the place, but I do have an affinity for 80s electronica and stuff. And there is nothing like watching a scene and all of a sudden they're playing a song from your Vangelis playlist.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
well,
I have a Vangelis playlist.
I love the fact that all of Stranger Things doesn't really hit you over the head with its 1980s-ness. Like there are some very on the nose, like, oh, that is how it was, and that is a clever, a nice, like those moments of, having a tethered phone that you were fingering the cord as you talk to someone and so on. But it wasn't a nostalgia for nostalgia's sake.
Yeah, and it wasn't like Mad Men where they kind of just sort of tried to rub those differences in your face sometimes a little too much.
Yes, misogyny, smoking. It was the 60s.
Yeah. I mean, I think.
Well,
Mad Men's great,
I think that it's been very interesting when you've looked at like how people have wanted to handle that, because theoretically, like Better Call Saul is a 90s period piece or early 2000s period piece that has touches of it, but could very well just take place before, during, or after.
Sure.
Breaking Bad, right? There are elements that are kind of stuck in time, and then there aren't. Similarly, I think The People versus O.J. Simpson did a very good job of, Marcia Clark's a smoker, and she smokes inside of her office sometimes, but it's not like a big thing where somebody's like, man, one day they're gonna ban this.
In Stranger Things, like you're aware because like you see like, oh yeah, that's your life revolved around the telephone. And the telephone at your house, and did I get a message? Did the message come through? And that was how you were connected.
Yeah, and it was someone else's fault. Like, you didn't think to call because if you were a kid and you were out till a certain time, there was no way for mom to get you. Like you just had to answer for whether or not you thought to call mom during that time.
Yeah. So,
I'm pumped to watch it.
It's a familiar plot. You're gonna go like, I've seen elements of this before, and I totally agree. It's not the most. Oh my God, I've never heard this sort of kind of premise before. The execution, it's just fantastic.
Well, and the pacing's good too, because they set up a question, and so far most of the questions I've seen, I'm only halfway through. But like if they set something up in episode 1, by episode 3, you're getting significant answers on it.
Yeah, one of the things that frustrated me so much about Lost was like talk about Stephen King is like they had a bunch of what ifs, but there was no concrete reality. There was none. There was just this. We're gonna tell the Shaggy Dog story, and then we're just gonna tell, yeah, but it's how the story's told. And I'm like, yeah, well, maybe, gentlemen.
How's it been?
It's weird. That was my goblin voice.
Oh, whoa! He's possessed.
Well, when I'm here with the coven, I like to end things with a nice little saying. It's been weird, y'all.
All right, restroom break.
Yeah, it works for me.
All right, here, guys. I got to tap out here and get back to business. But I'll talk to you.
Dude, hey, thank you so much for joining us. It makes it so much easier when there's 3 ways for us to kick stuff around.
Oh, absolutely. Wouldn't miss it. I love you guys. Bye.
Bye, Justin.
Bye. Oh, damn.
Oh,
You won't believe what's happening, America.
We got an email right before things started, so we might have a after things.
Oh, great.
Topic. Oops.
Sorry. I clicked on a thing, and then the Doctor Strange second trailer was playing, and then I was lost in it. It's a really good trailer. Like, just leaning on all of the Inception style work that they're doing.
Yeah.
That mind trippy kaleidoscope.
Right.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I really the scene from the first trailer where it's like the city, but it's kind of fractally.
Morphing.
Yeah.
Oh, and plus seeing the operative from Serenities was cool. Did you ever watch Firefly and Serenity, all that stuff?
I did. I don't remember. It's been a long time. since
The
I've
operative
seen
was the
Serenity.
guy that was only in the movie, the badass that with the samurai sword.
I kind of remember. Okay, I think I kind of remember that. It's been. I mean, I've seen Firefly a couple times. I've seen Serenity once.
Yeah.
Do you want to go get a drink or go to the bathroom?
Yeah, no, I'm good. Or I'm going to do that. So I guess I'm not good.
So he's not good. No,
That
he's
is
gonna
a,
go
that
get
is a
some
need
drink.
that I will fill at this time.
Hey, what's up, Alex?
Trump charging into a goblin's nest, kissing goblins, goblin vomit, catch him in bed with a goblin. Trump charging into a goblin's nest, kissing goblins, goblin vomit, catch him in bed with a goblin. Trump.
Gawker did a whole long. They did a longer video or longer article on this goblin video. Does someone have? I can look on my own Twitter, but I'll have to go back a while. Does anybody have the long Alex Jones, like minute long thing? But it wasn't the goblin thing. There was something else. I'm trying to see if I can find it. Hey, Andrew's crotch. Oh, bye. In bed with a goblin. How's everybody doing on this Sunday? This sleepy deepy Sunday. Man, I'm going through my Twitter and I've got just like a really great timeline. Just like I tweet some really good stuff, you guys. Like there's a picture of hot dogs with mayo. Tastes good actually. Where is that freaking Alex Jones thing? Oh, maybe I like quoted it. Oh no. Oh no. Jones? No. Oh, I can't find it. Alex Jones. Oh man. Profile. Oh wait, I think I got it. No, that's just the Foreigner's hot-blooded. Damn. Hey, Andrew.
Hello, sir.
So I just forwarded you an email that we got right as the show started for an After Things potential topic. I'm trying to see. I don't think we've gotten anything else, but I think there were still emails in that doc from last week. I don't think we got to all of them.
Ready?
What?
All right.
What?
Alrighty, guys. How are we feeling? You
Best
loose?
ever. Good. Ready.
Check it out.
Oh man, I'm ready to give so much advice. I'm gonna spill all the dirty details of what happens behind the scenes when you're a creative. You won't believe what happens on number 12.
All right. Well then, take it away, Andrew. In 3, 2.
What?
Oh, are you? Were you?
It's okay.
Okay.
It's a great. It's a great episode.
Wait.
Okay. So.
Man, I don't want to start.
Okay. Okay. So let me just hit that.
We got a question, so I'm trying to find an answer to this person's question. So.
intense than I thought it would be.
It's scary. How do you respond when you make a recommendation to an adult and they're like, it's too scary for me?
You say, it's okay, Bryce, you don't need to play raw data anymore.
Right.
Oh yeah, Sunbun reminds me, I think I'm going to have a new playlist on my That Sounds Cool thing tonight or tomorrow. It's a really good one. It's a little long. It's like almost 200 songs.
I really want the Stranger Things soundtrack.
Oh yeah. Do they have it online?
No. Okay, I'm good.
All right, sweet.
All right. Okay, hit this button again. All right. Take it away, Andrew, in 3, 2.
Welcome to the After Things podcast. I'm Andrew Main, joined by Brian Brushwood.
Hello, beautiful people.
So, After Things is a podcast where we talk to other creatives about being a creative professional, give our advice. Sometimes people have some questions relating to businesses they're doing, and want to pick the brain trust brains.
We want to pick the trust out of our brains. They want to make us resent everyone.
Yes, allow myself to introduce myself.
Yeah.
And we've got to start off with a question. This is from Gavin Raykemper. And a very simple, to the point question says, what tools would you use for ebook publishing to multiple platforms, online services, what applications, etc.? He says, I think you guys talked about it a while back.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'll jump in first. My tool of choice for creating ebooks now is Vellum. Now, it's a Mac-only piece of software at present, but I love it because it creates beautifully formatted ebooks. You can output it to whatever formats you need. If you want to output it to, the Kindle format, if you want to output it to Google Play, to Nook, etc., creates a very, very nice, elegant-looking book. You can choose your choice. You can use fancy drop caps, etc. You pay per book, so you pay a fee for each book that you want to convert. And I found that it's very easy to do updates because you go in there and you just make your changes in that version there, and then you output, and it just uploads to your Dropbox folder and just rewrites whatever versions you have. So I found that it has made my life so much easier when it comes to ebook publication. I went back and I took all my old ebooks and I put it in there so I could go in and create better looking ebooks. So it allows to do, tables of contents. You can integrate images. It was created. You could tell these people have a really good graphic design sense, which is problematic in the publishing industry. That's actually kind of rare. In most people in the industry don't realize how they don't have any kind of graphic design sense too.
Sure.
Which makes it even more complicated. So that is my Mac tool. That is my first and foremost pick. If you're not on Mac, if you don't want to use that, there is a free software which is called Calibri. It's a open source ebook library management system, which allows you to take a document and convert it into other formats. So you can convert it into, EPUB, all these other different versions you might need. So you could take like an original, I believe, like start with a Word document and then convert it into that. Now, when you want to take a book and you want to take, let's say, a Microsoft Word document or Scrivener, which I love to work with, and convert it. Now, Scrivener will do it itself, can convert it to those formats, but to get that really nice layout, it gets tricky, and that's why I like Vellum. You need to make sure that you use proper headings. You have to say, this is a chapter, this is a title, this is what this is, because if your document doesn't have that information, no ebook conversion software in the world will be able to figure that out. You have to be able to go in there, and some of the more intelligent ones look for certain things to say, okay, we think maybe if it does not mark chapter, if it's marked strong, then maybe this is it. It has to know what how your document lays out as a book. That's the problem. And so that's a really good software can figure that out. So either Vellum is my first pick by and large, and I've shown this to other people in the ebook industry, and they're like, oh, well, we're Windows, but we may go Mac just to use this.
I'm going to disagree with you on Calibre because I've never had bigger nightmares than trying to get formatting stuff worked out using that software. It's like just converting a 30-page booklet over and putting pictures in was a damn nightmare. But keep in mind, this is data that's 3 or 4 years old, and almost certainly has gotten better.
Pictures are problematic because it's not a layout thing. It's really the EPUB format sort of reluctantly supports photos as sort of inline images.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a problem. And you're right. You're right that if you're trying to do things that are photos, if you're just trying to do straight text, but if it's other than just an inline photo, yeah, that's the problem is how do you avoid having to go to InDesign or go all the way up to something else?
Correct. There is a free solution that is all cloud-based that once you build it in there, it will distribute it to all major platforms on the iBook store, on Amazon and all that stuff. It was called Vook.com, V-O-O-K, but now they've relaunched as Pronoun.com.
Yeah.
And they've got, I think you didn't like, if I remember correctly, you didn't like their distribution model, but now the way they make their money, you get 100% of the royalties. They make their money with their existing literary tracking information side business they have. So basically, they pretty much have. They pretty much are just funding keep the servers that were going for Vook.com and
yeah, but so here's my thing about Pronoun, okay? And I've talked to these people, I've done screencasts with them and all that. Is that there were as the system was presented to me, they upload and they handle the distribution there. And guess what? You don't get paid until you get paid quarterly based upon after Amazon pays them.
Right.
And so you don't control your Amazon account for the book anymore.
Yeah, no, that's accurate. I guess I haven't really worried about that because period. Full stop.
I'm saying is like to me it's ridiculous to give that up. You're giving up control over knowing what your daily sales are, control over pricing, being able to change.
You know what? That's actually that is a totally valid point. If you're somebody who wants to be able to manage and deal with fires as they happen, if somebody puts a review that unfairly maligns something, you want to be able to call and deal with it firsthand. I definitely, you do lose all of that by going with
and I pointed out like three errors in their terms of agreement which were inconsistent, and they still haven't updated it. I mean, they're nice people, but I was very I would not recommend it because they pay you, they get paid by Amazon.
Yep.
Right. Then they pay you through PayPal. So then PayPal does take a percentage out. So you're going to lose 3% plus whatever. So it's not.
I don't know. You know what? I should check and see because I believe they were doing direct deposit on mine, but then again, I haven't tuned in to see what that's been looking like lately.
So understand like that. So they pay you 30 to 60 days, after like Amazon pays you end of every month on Amazon, you get paid like 30 days later, you get paid there. Well, then Pronoun goes in there. To me, it's like there are other services to like, look up ebook conversion, whatever, where you're not, because then they control your title on Amazon. And if you want to do promotions, if you want to go turn around and do pricing changes, things like that, you have to go ask them to say, hey, can you do that? And to me, it just was like, there's not an upside to this.
Oh, hey, yeah. No, they did flip over to PayPal. Oh, man, I'm done and wrong. Oh, hey, I made money. Well, that's cool. I didn't. I guess if for me, Pronoun was a good solution to do a media rich because of course we tried a bunch of nutty things on the Scam School books where we had kind of director's commentary audio tracks, we had embedded video illustration showing all that stuff, and that was just nightmarish with anything other than this cloud-based platform. And then the idea of having to do it once and then redo it all for a different format between, the different distribution things was insane. So, but yes, you do give up a lot to do it that way.
I would recommend, if you want, instead, if you go to, let's say, like CreateSpace, you go through there and you can create a print version, and then they will automatically create for you for free. You can take your Word document into CreateSpace, you can create a print version, then you can create an ebook version. I don't know if they support EPUB or they just do directly to Kindle sort of conversion. That's problematic if you want to do something other than that. But you would think this day and age these things would be a lot easier, but they're not. And the problem too is that you had a number of companies that started around 2011 when ebooks were starting to really take off in the Kindle, and you had companies got funded and they're all trying to figure out how they're going to get into this. And it's Amazon's game. It's Amazon's business. It's everybody else is just an afterthought.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So those are recommendations again. But you know what? And I recommend take a look at Pronoun though. Don't go by just what I said. Take a look at that, but understand that it is you no longer really control the title, and there's that, and and again, everybody there that I talked to was super cool, super nice, but when I talk to other authors, like active authors, it's one of these things like, okay, so I give up all this control, all this pricing data, all this other information because I don't control my Amazon account for the book.
Well, but maybe it really is like I mean, because I don't really think of myself as an author, but I made books and I just wanted them to be out, and whatever people are going to say about them, or however many units are sold or whatever, it's not my living, right? It was supplementary income, and it was a trade-off of ease of distribution for the loss of all that control.
Yeah, and I think when you used Vook, I think they created beautifully laid out books. I think it did a really good design. I think it did a really good thing of that, and I think that's a trade-off. Everybody has their different sort of, threshold of what they want to do or not. And I understand like your Calibri problems, like, yeah, because it's not a layout tool, for just regular text and stuff.
Yeah.
And doing any kind of images is difficult. I think that Vellum is pretty good, but it's hard because like if you want to do, an ebook format is a very linear thing. It says text here, photo here, text here, photo here. It's not, because it has to be able to adapt to different screen sizes. It has to be able to adapt to a desktop, to a phone. And where photos and things like that should be laid out on a mobile device is very different than how it might look somewhere else. And so there are all these choices that have to be made, and that gets to be problematic. And it's amazing when you see how, and that's been, we'll talk at some point more about it. I've been working on a very easy to read mobile format for making it easy to share samples of your books, and trying to come up with a I think I've shown this before, my text format, like my page format. Let me see if I can show this to you. Let's see if I have an example here of a book with this. Because the goal was like, how do you make it easy for you to share a book? And if you go to Amazon and you click on take a look inside the book, sneeze coming here. It literally shows you. It shows you, an example of, the book page, but it looks like, it's not really a fun format to read. So, if you click on there, Bryce is clicking through through my book and showing you. So it's literally the inside of the book, which
yeah,
it's not that. So I came up with a format. If I can show you on the camera here, let's see if it adjusts there.
Oh, yeah. Wow, that looks great.
So what that is that it's a format that it's got drop caps. It's got everything. I created a very easy, you press one button to increase the font size on it. And So you can increase. So if this will look the same on a Kindle as it will on your desktop computer. And I went and created like a special CSS script, figures out what kind of device you're using, figures out how to format the text to fit it, uses a proper font. So many examples of reading like books online, like they do spaces between paragraphs, which is not a format you normally use in fiction. They don't do drop caps. They don't do right justified. There are all these little things that aren't done because, print typography is different than web typography. But when you want to pull out a reader, I said, well, what's the best way of reading it in a Kindle? And so how do I make it look like that? So that's part of a larger project called Writer Tool, which I was showing Bryce before, which is basically to make it very easy for authors to create web pages, to upload their books, to provide samples, and to do all of that. And it'll be totally free. So
Right on.
We'll get into that some other point. But that's been, I've been digging into looking around at, best practices for creating websites. And I would certainly say that, I push a lot of people towards Squarespace because it's when you want a lot of customizability, but you don't want to have to get into back end uploading things to a server.
Sure.
Squarespace has it, but it's still very. My problem with Squarespace is that unless you're like, a photo blogger, it's when you try to make it particular to your taste, and if you're a person that does certain kinds of commerce or things like that, it gets much more problematic. And if you don't have a bunch of high-res photos of you snowboarding, it's, you have to look past any service. You have to look past how they do the photos to actually what you're doing. And a lot of the standard templates people use now is they use sort of this one-page sort of parallax thing where things scroll up towards you.
Mm-hmm.
I find that hard to read. I find that not at all a pleasurable experience. It looks beautiful, but it's beauty over function.
Yeah, my problem is that not enough people are using code ROGUE at checkout. That's ROGUE to get 10% off your purchase and keep the Modern Rogue in business.
I think it's a great start. I think it's a great starting place if you're trying to figure where to go. But I'll just say that I send friends there and then they just
No. I mean, it looks, especially like the whole playing a video in the background thing, I think looks pretty dope. If you go to themodernrogue.com, you can see we threw that together on, I say we, I mean Brant. Threw it together on Squarespace, and it does, it's like the bar, like there's no more excuse for just a garbage looking website now in a world where Squarespace exists.
I guess I typed in Modern Rouge.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing about the Modern Rogue is everyone puts the U in the wrong spot.
Yeah. How do I spell it?
TheModernrogue.
Oh, the.
Yeah. The Modern Rogue. Right on, man. Do we have another question, or is that the only one we got this week?
I can't. I'm giving up trying to figure out how to spell that right. So
the show just becomes only trying to the spelling bee.
That was the end of the questions. We had a comment last week. I think it was Joe Diamond. We talked about. He explained that where he performs in it, it's hot, and that's why he wears the short sleeves, which I believe and I accept. Short sleeve and a vest, something. Just saying. These for images. Just sell.
Well, and also it's like, I don't know, the pictures when you're there in the moment are like just at least the pictures on the website, right? The way you represent the spirit of what's happening. That's what matters.
He says that, he's got I guess the Halloween season looks booked. Everything's doing really well. And so he's doing really well. He's done a really, really good job, I think, on his website and everything else. And that's the hardest part is when it comes to web stuff and things like that, and for giving you a lot of functionality, I think Squarespace does a great job of that. It gives you a lot of functionality. And with anything, the problem is we set out to do something and we think it's going to be easy, but the problem is it may be easy, but we have to make choices that we're not prepared for. And that's when fatigue sets in, and that's when we give up, is because we're like, oh, I need to choose an image. Well, now I'm going to spend the next 30 minutes trying to choose the perfect image for this. And my little fatigue tank of how much fatigue I can handle is being drained. And all of a sudden you give up.
We got a good question in the chat. Gethraken, it says, chat question for Andrew. Want to publish short stories, but the shorts are going to be backstories and snippets for a novel he's working on. What rights does he give away in publishing the shorts? I believe traditionally none, right? I mean, if it's getting published, you always own the copyright unless you're doing a work for hire gig.
Yeah, I mean, it depends who. Yeah, I mean, where are you talking about publishing them? Are you talking about to like as part of an anthology? Where is this, stuff that you're giving away on your website? A little more clarity on that. But, they're traditional. There are a lot of standard publishing deals where, they get the rights to publish it in that thing, but then you own it. But then sometimes people try hanky things. And, that's been problematic too, is that sometimes you read through terms of services on stuff and and they're not intended to be like make you give away more than you plan, but sometimes they do give away more than you plan. And Brian and I can both attest to,
Sure.
That yes, this is what's on paper and we go do what we're doing. And then they later on go, yeah, but now we told you we didn't mean it, but now we mean this.
Yeah. Well, and you're dangerously close to getting me wanting to talk about those situations. The magic phrase I look for is work for hire. Work for hire means any work that you do, they own 100% of, and you are just a contractor to provide them with a thing. If my guess is if it's a publisher that wants to be around for any amount of time, that they probably have some fairly industry standard verbiage in there.
Yeah. And I will say that, like, I remember once I got asked by a TV show, they wanted permission to use like a couple of my magic books in a scene. And I'm like, oh yeah, sure, but let me look at your agreement. And the agreement was that I gave them all rights in perpetuity, right, to use it.
Yeah.
And I know what they meant was they just meant that, like, if they use a poster or a photo or whatever, and if it ever appears, they don't want me, they want me to go in and suing them because it showed up on, TV and set India or, somewhere else like this or
right,
whatever. But the problem is that it's a book, and by me signing that agreement, I actually gave them, they would have publishing rights on the book. They didn't want that. They care less about that. But they would have those rights, right? Which is
right. Which suddenly puts you in an awkward position. Let's say for whatever reason you did want to sell those rights to somebody, you would technically not have that. That would not be yours to sell.
I couldn't give an exclusive. I could not give an exclusive right to somebody else like that, and I couldn't in good faith say yes. And that was like, I told them like that. It's like, this is problematic. And then it's like, they're like, all right. And I'm like, it's just going to be too much of a problem to do that. And I know somebody else who did it. And like their playing cards or something like that. I'm like, they can make your cards now and they could go do that, and I'm like, if Bicycle wants to buy your design, they can't.
Well, and it's the second scenario that's the real bugger on there, right?
Yeah, I mean, unlikely, but that's the problematic, because it's also like for them, it wasn't worth it to rewrite it. And I get it. And that's so, yeah, you always want to read those things and pay attention. And sometimes things are intentionally put there. Sometimes things are not, and you may have the person you may negotiate a contract with may be acting in completely good faith, but if those rights are assignable, which means that they can go to somebody else or sell that on to another party, little peeking behind the curtain here, Brian, Justin, myself have been talking to people about a project, and we bring in an agent to look at the contracts on stuff because he points out, like, okay, you want to have an assignability where they certainly, if they get bought by a bigger company or whatever, they want to do that. We want to make that okay, but we want to make sure they can't sell it to a smaller company or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. For what you're describing, though, for a series of short stories, because it doesn't sound like you're doing it for the money. Sounds like you're doing it for the exposure and the credit, as he's mentioning in the chat. Just look at the agreement. My guess is you'll be A-okay.
Yeah, did he ever answer what it's for?
He says, online magazine?
Yeah, online magazine. Specifically, he wanted to get a SFWA credit, a Science Fiction Writers of America credit.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm working on a project with them right now, actually.
Well, maybe you could put in a good word.
Yeah, the things I've been showing you, that may relate to that project with them. So, trying to help authors, trying to make it easier to share short stories and stuff. So, and other stuff. But yeah, I think if they're working at SFWA, it's a great organization. They're very, very pro author. So, read through it, but I think you should be fine. I think it's good. I think writing more short stories is great. It's a great way to reel people into your content. It's a great way to work on your craft, and it's a format that nobody owns. Nobody's really figured out how to make it really work either, but
right,
we shall see. Brian,
dude, yeah, no. I think you nailed it all on the head. Hey, as far as picks, I'm only doing this pick because he's not here anymore. But I sincerely can't say enough about how exciting it is to watch Justin Young being a part of the launch of a new cable network, or I guess online news network. You know, BTN. If you go to btlive.tv, there's a bunch of stuff. Right now, I've watched it because I'm an old-fashioned desktop PC guy, and it's just enough of a pain in the ass to get on there that it's easier for me to look at the bootleg YouTube stream. But that's going to be happening at diamondclub.tv all this week, and just turn it on. If you're going to have noise in the background, why not have it be Justin Robert Young's noise? Because he makes good noise, that one.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I've had twice this week, I've had friends say, hey, check out my thing that I'm doing. And I wasn't quite sure on how to do it. It was like, wait, I create an account here, or I do this, or I do that. And I'm like, am I old, or are some of these mediums trying too hard to build a wall before they have a garden?
Yeah. Well, and that's fine. I mean, I think I like the fact that it's a very BitTorrent way of handling this, where it's like, we want to do this, the opportunity's now, let's go first and figure it out later. Which, yeah, I'm sorry, it looked like you had something to say.
No.
Oh, no. Okay.
No, I'm so proud of Justin, so proud to see what he's doing. So, it's so exciting to see him do that. You know, of course, like the first image I see was him in, as a Pokemon character.
Yeah, dressed up as a Charmander covering the Republican National Convention. It was amazing.
Of course. This is what he's bringing to journalism. I hope when he goes back to Syracuse to speak at Newhouse that he wears that.
Yes. Although I keep saying the word
produced.
bootleg in that it's apparently not their preferred distribution plan, because I know they have a dedicated app and all that other stuff. But it looks like we decided this was a legit channel, right? BitTorrent News?
Yes. And so we can embed YouTube Live, which is what we've been doing
sweet.
last week on DiamondClub.tv.
Yeah.
Listen, it's BitTorrent, so it's not like, what are they going to do? Complain?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, exactly. They're probably a little stoic about this kind of thing.
Yeah, I used to wonder, like there was a period of the Soviet Union had, all their movies, everything else they produced, under a certain period of time belonged to the state. I was like, wonder, it's a communist country, so can they get upset if you use it?
Yeah, right. Well, I believe that's actually part of isn't that the case with the BBC, because the BBC's content is paid for by the taxes that everybody owns it and can use it for anything.
I tried to look that up on the BBC. I couldn't get that exactly, but that is the case for the United States. If there's government video, like NASA video, that's public domain.
I mean, it depends, because if it's NASA stuff, photos and stuff like that, you can. But remember, BBC, but a lot of it's content they license. Doesn't mean because they pay a license for Doctor Who, doesn't mean they
own. Yeah, got it.
Actually, they do own Doctor Who, but that's the thing, is that there can be a lot of, and that's one of the problems getting into, we've talked about this. This is a topic that gets brought up, what about government research? Government-funded research, should that all be in the public domain? And on one hand, you say, well, if we taxpayers paid for it, then yes, it should. But on the other hand, it's like, well, if it wasn't totally government paid for, does that mean, 30% of it, and how does that work? And that's become, it's a big issue. It's a big question. And that's one of the problems, is getting access to, research and a lot of other stuff, is that you have a few companies that handle, publication of science, report, research, and all that. And you've got to pay huge fees for access to that.
Yeah. Right on. So what about you? Got any picks?
My pick is, I mentioned before, I listened to this, and I've got a new one I'm listening to, but I loved the Victorian Internet, which is all about the Telegraph. I am now working my way through, I just finished Hackers, which I really enjoyed, and now I'm listening to The Innovators by Walter Isaacson, who I was not a fan of a Steve Jobs biography, but I'm a fan of The Innovators. And it's about basically where did the computer come from, and talking about how it wasn't just one person who had a brilliant idea. It took numerous things, from Babbage to Lady Lovelace, to all of this, to how these things came about and how close we got, but then how far apart we were. The microchip, and getting into here are all the different things that came into play for the microchip to happen. But you do get some interesting occurrences where the transistor was a project at Bell Labs in 1939, and then World War II. We talk about World War II, war, it creates innovations. Well, transistor was a hot project at Bell Labs in 1939, then World War II broke out, and it was
all of a sudden, let's make things that blow up instead, right?
Yeah, it was a decade before
Wow.
the transistor got picked up again. And there's an alternate universe where that project didn't get dropped, and maybe we had the transistor in 1943, you know, or maybe not. But
Yeah, I'm going to go with the controversial position that war, not great. I'm going to say in general, we'd probably have a bigger pie if we had less of it.
It certainly does funnel a lot of money and a lot of a lot of initiative and drive towards, you know, building things, you know, making things faster and driving things. And we can, you know, it's one of these things we say like, oh, you know, like, look at how much innovation goes back to the government. Like, wow, look at how much money they spend. You know, do we get more innovation per research dollar spent in the government than Google does? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
But that's kind of for sheer dollar spent. Like, you know, I'm a big fan of NASA. NASA's done some amazing things. And one of the justifications is look at all these other things we got out of it. But the question is like, yes, but did that dollar get us more there or did it get us more elsewhere? And
hey, random side jag. Since you're talking about government spending for advancing of sciences or whatever, there was on this week I think it's this week's Penn Sunday School. He brought up this. Did you hear about the gift to NASA from of two space telescopes that blew away?
A couple years ago, the NSA. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he was talking like I couldn't believe how much new information I was getting when listen to him tell, because he does an entertaining job. But basically, NASA got two amazingly powerful telescopes and parts to pretty much make a third that from another governmental office because they were obsolete. Like what the National Reconnaissance Office, which
NRO.
This is the part I didn't know. The NRO is far and away bigger than the NSA, the CIA, or the FBI, or whatever. According by the budgets, according to
NRO. So much of it is black budget, so we don't quite know what the funding is. We have to kind of look at the federal budget and then sort of draw circles around what we think. So it's National Reconnaissance Office. They're the ones that actually control the spy satellites. And that was so that story is that they went to NASA about 3 years ago. They said, and actually I mentioned this in my new book, my new Jessica Blackwood book coming out, is I have a side reference to that because I have a seismologist who's dealing with a problem. He says like, hey, when the NRO can show up and give the NASA out of nowhere, you know, because they're talking about a computational problem,
right?
And they're like, well, is this solvable? He's like, you know, not with anything I know we have, but you know, we just had, you know, NRO give NASA 2 Hubble-sized telescopes that they just secretly built. Who knows what? And this is true. Like, we don't know. We don't know what actual. We'll hear like, oh, the Chinese set a new supercomputing record. We don't know what the actual record is because in the basement, the NRO, NSA, or whatever, there is underground several football fields of computers, and you hear about companies like D-Link, which makes a
routers.
Like a quantum. They make a quantum computer. They have a project. They're doing this with Google. We don't know what their government projects are, and we don't know the state of that. And I bet you anything, we have government quantum computing working on all this sort of stuff, and there is multi-billion-dollar initiatives trying to do this. D-Wave, thank you. D-Link makes like modems and stuff.
Yeah.
So D-Wave is, you know, and they buy, and these things actually do work with certain limited tool sets. So we don't know. We don't know what's there.
Yeah. Well, and again, like to reiterate, this is a massive leap forward over the Hubble. They gave them 2 of them for free, and the stated reason is because number 1, they had so many others of them that these were just sitting around. Number 2, also, these are the incredibly old ones that we don't even need anymore and will never send to space because they're garbage to us.
There used to be it was about a 10 to 15 year lag between military technology and commercial technology. Is that let's say you talk about an image sensor, you know, an image sensor and a camera. The military probably had ones that were 10 to 15 years ahead generations. That's shrunk considerably, but in some domains it can still be as large.
Well, especially in I would imagine large scale manufacturing like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just like even if you knew exactly, because I mean, what's a telescope but a mirror and you know and precision basically. So it's like it's not like we didn't know how to make something this powerful and strong.
Yeah, well, the problem was actually one was how do you make a mirror that precise?
Right.
That was, and then your optics on board there. So you need mirror and you need really really good optics. So you need some sort of imaging system in there that can do that. And you know, what's the next? You know, you can commercially we can buy an image sensor. And for it to be commercial, it means it's got to have a very low defect rate. That means that maybe 1 out of 100 don't work.
Right.
For military, you could have only 1 out of 100 actually function, and that's fine. That's an acceptable loss because you test the 100, you find the one that work, and you may have some advanced exotic process in which you make these, but because you only need to do so many. There's an interesting discussion in the Innovators about the Trident or the Minuteman missile and about how that funded transistor research, because the Minuteman was a surface-to-surface missile. This thing had to take off, had to go hit a target, so it had to have all sorts of computations there to figure out how to reach its target based on wind and all these other things. And when they started this thing, the Minuteman missile, something like a transistor was something like $500 a piece. By the time they finished it, by 10 years later, by the time the transistor industry got going, it was, $2 a piece.
Wow.
So that was certainly government as being the first person to buy it. There are advantages to that. So
yeah, that's crazy. Well, this week on political spending.
Yeah, I mean, and it's one of these things that it comes down to is like I don't think you are we have I don't think there's a yes or no answer. It sort of gets into what your preference is, and
yeah, no, I guess the most surprising part to me was that here was a branch of the government, a government office that was by far the biggest of all the reconnaissance, bigger than the NSA, bigger than the CIA, bigger than everything, and somehow you just never hear about them. That's fairly extraordinary.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when nobody knew who the NSA was, and that was the NSA was sort of a thing. And the NROs worked really hard towards being very secretive about that. But you part of the way this works. I was with a friend driving through outside Washington D.C. years ago. This is in the 1990s, late 90s, and he points out this office complex. This complex is like 6-story building, and he says, "See that?" I go, "Yep." It says that's actually like a 12-story building. I go, what? Because there's 6 stories underground.
No way.
And it was he said it was going to be like CA, but he says it was going to be an imaging facility. Was going to be their secret imaging facility there. But then the word got out that was what it was. So then they abandoned using that building.
Wow.
So it just became some other type of government building. But it was there was a whole level under, several levels underneath where they were going to be doing all of that processing, imaging and stuff. Word got out. They said, nope, we got to move it somewhere else. So there is that building somewhere else. Maybe we don't know where it is.
It's crazy. It's insane.
And that's in the title, by the way, of the 3rd Jessica Blackwood book is called Blackfall. And I get into a bit of that kind of like how government doesn't know what government is doing, and not in some like super conspiracy thing, but just sort of these
just in that you have everybody doing stuff and you have mandates saying don't talk about what you're doing, so you're gonna have giant chunks of government doing stuff that the other side doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, and things get funded and then they get forgotten about, but they still function and they're still there. And
yeah.
So anyhow, it's been after.
Sure has.
So you've seen that Rogue One behind the scenes stuff?
I've not. I've kind of decided to be all, I don't know. If you want to watch it, we can watch it. I kind of figured.
Follow. I want to hear where this. I want to see where this goes.
No. I really think I enjoyed The Force Awakens more because I made a some would say outsized effort to try to be kind of spoiler free going into it, and not so much that I'm worried about being spoiled on major plot elements, but just that I just don't want to be thinking about it, because if I think too hard, I'm gonna have expectations and all that stuff, And it was a cool experience to go in and see the movie that way, I think I'm not gonna go out of my way to see. I mean, as much fun as it was when we were at Star Wars Celebration, right? That was great, and if other people are into that, I'll get caught up in the moment with them. But
yeah,
I think on my own, I'm gonna not try to do that.
The footage is more like here's some locations here and some stuff, and kind of stuff that was already in the trailer, but a little bit more behind the scenesy kind of, But yeah, I totally hear you on that. You seen the new Doctor Strange trailer?
Yes, so good.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, you haven't?
No. The first one left me wanting, man. First one, I'm like, I've seen these movies before.
I think you will. I don't know that you're going to get more of the story that you want from the second trailer, but it is a visual treat, and I'm really excited about the kind of psychedelic, kaleidoscopic, Inception-inspired elements that they're doing visually.
Yeah, well, I was the first trailer. I'm like, hey, Batman Begins was cool. Hey,
Yeah.
Matrix is cool.
Right.
Hey, Inception's cool.
Right.
You know, and then it was like, and that, I would say that between Stranger Things and Mr. Robot, both of them are openly derivative of other genres and other stuff. You
Yes.
know, Mr. Robot very much
Very
Sandra Spell's
wears
very
it on
much-
his sleeve that it's like, yeah, we're Fight Club the TV show, and if you
Yeah, and then adds to it, and then I've made the case that the unreliable narrator is rarely used very well. In his case, it is a wonderfully done unreliable narrator. It's not done often. Unreliable narrators done just to sort of hide plot points and to try to keep you guessing, and then do a ha no, this was, and it's like. That's just, it's like, it's doing magic where I do this, and which hand is it in,
yeah, where there's so much noise, there's no signal to be gleaned.
Yeah, where Mr. Robot I thought was just, I mean, my favorite part in that, just a little, not too spoiler, but there's an early on episode where, because the guy's dealing with insanity, and all of a sudden he sees his path where he can just have this normal life, and they're playing like Limb, Steal My Sunshine, and you're like, I don't want this for him. I don't want him to have this.
Yeah.
I want this unreliable guy because he's much more interesting that way.
Yeah.
Rob-
Speaking of which, gosh, I got a lot of TV I got to watch tonight. I got to watch Mr. Robot. We got new Preachers out.
Oh, geez. I was already a week behind on the night of, and now there's going to be another episode out tonight, I'm sure.
Yeah. If you log in, I've started buying some of the episodes because I just don't want to sit through the ads.
Oh, a Preacher?
Yeah. So I think I might have last week's.
I'm so far behind.
I think I watched it live. Never mind.
You see the Star Trek TV show teaser?
No. Should I?
Yeah, did see it. We talk about this right now.
Can you play it right now? Star Trek
Maybe
teaser?
this should be an after the stream is over thing because of the recording element.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry.
I mean, you could show it to me. I could look at it and we could talk about it.
Okay.
I mean,
This was a trailer?
Yeah, the teaser.
is it called Discovery?
Yep.
Oh, I did see images of this. I'll give you a little bit of audio. This is a live reaction.
Yeah, it's definitely Kubrickian 2001 inspired opening shot.
So like
Dude, the production quality looks good.
Yeah.
So no faces. It's all the
No.
ship is the star
Yeah.
of the show.
So here's the thing. If you watch in high res, it doesn't look all that good. It looks like something that was thrown together kind of quickly.
Oh yeah, no, I'm definitely looking at a
This is a-
smallest sized YouTube.
yeah, it's a very
display.
Babylon 5 kind of. The design of the ship, it's interesting because it looks like they took sort of an idea from an old Ralph McQuarrie who did a lot of the great Star Wars stuff, that they took one of his designs for Phase 2 or the Star Trek The Lost Years, like his design for a ship. It's also very Klingon-esque, which I wonder because you hear the Klingon music.
Well, yeah, you get a little bit of that James Horner, that Wrath
Yeah,
of
so I
Khan
wonder
stuff.
if it's like something based on Klingon tech or something,
Huh.
or I don't know, but
Interesting.
Gambling Man says they haven't actually started filming yet.
I
Nope.
see. So this is all art pre-pro.
yeah,
stuff.
this is
yeah.
just give those nerds at Comic-Con something to look at.
Yeah. Okay. You want to talk about half-baked garbage being released to the public? Dude, that freaking Justice League trailer was a train wreck. It was meandering, rambling nonsense.
So here's I'm going to respond to this.
And by the way, first of all, like
You don't have to, though.
I get what they're doing. There's a lot of dog whistles. There's all like, well, we got to show the fans that we got a credible Aquaman. It's cool. So let's make the first minute about Aquaman. But then also let's randomly have Ben Affleck redo the assembling of the Avengers. All of a sudden he's Nick Fury for some reason, and then let's suddenly abandon that and go in a different direction. It was insane.
So remember when we got our first Batman versus Superman, the kind of the trailer with, the Bruce Wayne pulls up and he meets Clark Kent and
Yep.
Jesse Eisenberg playing Jesse Eisenberg.
Right.
And it just lingered. It just was, it's like, yeah, it's gonna be kind of funny, but you're just, it's like, the worst thing in the world that I do when I tell a joke and why I can't tell a joke is, one, I laugh at my own jokes.
Right.
Dumb. And then if you tell a joke and you wait for a response.
Yeah, sure.
Like, aha, funny, eh? The spontaneity's kind of gone there. And the fact that you're laughing at your own stuff, not so good. Right. Justin's funny because Justin, we don't take him seriously.
So what's the second thing you do? Is it meander into tendrils that forget to stick to the point?
So part of that was like, I watched that Justice League trailer, and it just goes, those bits go on too long and they linger.
Well, it felt like a fatty rough cut. Like if Bryce had sent that to me and it was a Scam School episode at 4.5 minutes, I would say, this is trying to be a 2.5 minute episode. You need to figure out how to eliminate fully half of this.
Yeah, and the music, I mean, like, gosh, like they're whoever's cutting trailers for Warner Brothers, like, I don't want them to be able to license any popular music at all, because they're trying so hard. Like all the Suicide Squad, they're trying to create a feeling from really great songs.
Yeah, sure.
And I want, there's a Zack Snyder who did 300, which I love. There's a Zack Snyder who did was like Dawn of the Dead, or whichever one of the thing he did, which I thought was a really well done film.
Mm-hmm.
Snyder, who did parts of Watchmen, but Watchmen as a whole, and that's what got me worried, was like, I think there could have been a great movie here, and we can blame it on the material, but
dude, Watchmen was a weird, pardon me for saying, Rorschach test, because if you read the comic, I think you loved it because it did a good job of capturing all those pictures of I like the people who liked it the most tended to be people who had read the comic. The people who hated it the most tended to be people who had not read the comic.
I devoured the comic. I bought that comic in individual issues, and the thing that got to me is like, yes, if you're the fan of what's his name, his drawing style, yes, those images are there.
Yeah.
If you're the writing though,
Frank Miller
comic.
No.
It's about Adrian Veidt. It is about Adrian Veidt. It is about this idea of what happens when you have to save the world, and you really have to save the world, and you have to make it the most difficult choice of all. That's what it was to me. And you go back through and you read his story, and you go back, and once you read it through the Adrian Veidt point of view, you're like, he's an extremely moral guy. He's an extremely compassionate person. But he has to choose to be a god means you have to make these godlike decisions when it comes to humanity. And that was not in the movie. It was just, it was more about the owl, and all was good. And Dr. Manhattan, but it was just, I thought it missed that. Anyhow, side note, it's open to interpretation. I thought with the Justice League trailer, I'm like, I have not seen the extended version of Batman versus Superman. I don't know if there's any way that you can make the Martha scene make sense. I don't know if you can, the whole Batman failing the farmer in a boat with a wolf, a goat, and a cabbage. When it comes to I've got to bring Doomsday to the Kryptonite instead of the Kryptonite to Doomsday away from the city. That ridiculous. I know. I feel like, you should see it. It gives a lot more background. I'm like, I don't know that it will.
You didn't walk away from that movie saying, you know what, I just would love is more background on this.
I like, that whole chase sequence in the beginning, where he's, the gap.
I still haven't seen it, so I don't even know.
Okay, so anyway, I listen. I want Justice League to be great. I want it to be awesome. The Wonder Woman trailer really left me going, wow, let's make an interesting CW show.
Oh yeah.
Because it was just part of what I love. Like, if you look at the Winter Soldier. Okay, Winter Soldier said we're gonna put a superhero in a 70s spy thriller genre,
Right.
and then every time we do an action scene, we're going to create an interesting challenge instead of just the superhero and people shooting at him. You know, first sequence, he's on the boat, you know, sneaking a stealth attack on board the ship. You know, a really cool ship is your environment kind of thing. And the Russo brothers, I thought, have been very, very good at that, between that and Civil War. And, you know, in the Winter Soldier, the elevator scene where they're trying to capture Captain America. And he has to
yeah,
fight-
yeah, yeah. And you feel that tension at that moment.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's so, yeah, the moment even up to the fight is so good and so tense. And then the fight, you're like, I don't know how he's going to play out of this. You know, when you watch superheroes just stand down the middle and deflect every bullet and do whatever, it's like, that's not exciting.
Well, what it does is it reminds you that you're not watching reality. Like
Yeah.
you set up rules. You have to the more consistent you can remain with those rules. You can do novel applications, but the truth needs to have been there in front of their faces the whole time for it to be a valid aha moment. You know.
Yeah.
Whereas instead it's just like, oh, and also he can fly now.
Yeah, again, I want them all to be great. I wish them well. You know, they're rewriting Aquaman.
A child has entered the room.
Hello, little child. Brian, I didn't know you had a pet monkey.
Yeah. Are you a monkey?
No.
What are you?
I'm a girl.
Hey, look at
Ghoul.
that.
You're a ghoul. I think you're a ghoul too.
No, oh, he's being silly. You say you're silly, Andrew Main.
You're silly, Andrew, man.
If I was silly, would I have a Boba Fett mask on?
What? Holy eyes. He says
Cows.
Star Wars. That's right. That's good. Good job.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, I'm gonna go downstairs and play Dad for a bit.
I'm gonna play Boba Fett and see if Slave Leia wants to come over.
Cool. I'm gonna play some music.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
You want milk? You want blue milk?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, that's her favorite. That's her favorite drink is blue milk.
Did you hear Gareth Edwards' comment about blue milk?
No.
So they have a really cool interview with him at Star Wars Celebration Europe, and they ask him about, like, you know, Star Wars. He says, well, for my 30th birthday, my girlfriend said, what do you want to do? And they went to Tunisia, and they went to the sets where they made, and this is before he was going to do Star Wars. Right?
Yeah,
So they went to the sets where they made it, you know, the igloo set, and then they, like, the hotel where they actually, like, the Lars homestead was. And he brought his own blue milk to drink in that room.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then he accidentally spilled the blue milk dye on the ground, and he says there's a blue stain you can see there.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Playing with a blue playground. That's so fun.
All right, say bye.
Believe it.
Bye.
Bye.